guys. Hi. You see this ugly band-aid? I literally just cut my finger with lotion. How do I do that? See this? I was squeezing it to get all the lotion out, and it literally scraped my skin off. So that's why I have a band-aid on, just to preface that. But I am back with the part 2 of the true crime story that I was telling in my last video. I do want to preface and say that I am just going to read an article. I was in the middle of doing research about this case, but I unfortunately ran into some bad news with my own health, and it has thrown me all off course. So in order for me to remain focused, I just thought, let me go ahead and do a video now, and I'll just read the article, and I'll also link the article that I'm going to read to you guys about the case. I did want to just go ahead and talk it out without reading it, but again, something came up as far as my health. The doctors have found a mass in my right breast, and they are giving me it was like 15 doctors running in and out. So let me just tell you this story really quick. I went to the hospital because of my Crohn's. I thought I was gonna die, literally. And upon them putting me in the CAT scan, they found a large mass in my right breast. So about 15 to 16 doctors kept coming in and out the room, asking me all these type of questions about if it runs in my family, have I been feeling pain with my breasts, all sorts of stuff. So after I was discharged, I followed up with my primary care to get a referral to see a breast specialist for a mammogram. And all day today, I have been fussing with these people because since I'm not over the age of 30, even though the CAT scan shows a large mass, they are unable to schedule me. So it's been horrible. Like, I'm super stressed. I called my doctor back for them to contact them, but my stress levels have been out of the door. Okay, I'm breaking out. It's causing my Crohn's to do all sorts of stuff. It's just not a good time for me. So guys, bear with me if this video I stutter or I get stuck or whatever. Don't charge it to my head or my heart. Just chuck it up as I'm going through things. So to move past that, I am going to have a glass of wine. I am just getting off of work, and I definitely need this after today. Okay? So if you are not over the legal age of drinking, I'm going to ask that you click off this video. And if you are not one who can handle true crime stories, I'm also going to ask that you click off. I don't want to disrupt anyone else's mood. Everyone is supposed to be living happy, friendly, a positive life, and I don't want to be the cause of that disruption. So now is again the time while I take a sip of my wine. And if you see some double chins going on, they just put me on 80 milligrams of steroids. So I'm just so unsatisfied with myself right now. I just feel disgusting. This is why I'm not showing my face. I didn't feel like putting makeup on because I'm breaking out. So you're gonna see my pimples through my makeup. Just guys, bear with me. Just keep me in your thoughts and prayers or whatever you guys believe in. Just keep the positive energy up for me, okay? Alright, so in the last video, I did go into the childhood of Paul Homolka, or Homolka. And at that time, I didn't have information about Karla, which is Paul's wife. So I wanted to go into a little bit about Karla, and then we will pick up where I left off. So, alright, Karla was born in 1970 in Port Credit, Ontario, and her parents were traveling salesmen. Her dad name was Karla Homolka. He was an alcoholic, shit so fuck immigrant, and his Ontarian wife, Dorothy Sager, a geriatric clinic employee. Karla had two sisters. They were younger than her, Lori and Tammy. Karla was a bright child and a good student that was like catered to by her father, but he would also insult her and her mother and sisters during his drunk episodes. And he basically abandoned himself in the basement. I'm sorry, not him. They did. The mom and the sisters abandoned themselves in the basement when he got to these rage modes of his drinking. So eventually their parents' marriage fell apart once he took on a mistress. And surprisingly to him, his wife, basically introduced him to a threesome so that way she can keep her marriage. So she just wanted to bring his mistress on into their home. So from a young age, Karla was described as stubborn and demeanoring, and she was unable to compromise with other children and always wanted to speak her mind to adults. She had a depressive episode after she began to attend Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School because she dressed in a non-conforming manner, and she cut herself and claimed false suicide attempts as a way to seek attention. So it just seems that she was doing things again for attention. Like, she didn't want to dress how the school the school uniforms, and she just wanted all eyes on her. Later on, she developed a sadistic and masochistic fantasies, and then she got a part-time job at a veterinarian clinic while she was in high school. After she graduated in 1988, she then worked for a veterinary clinic as a full-time veterinarian technician. Okay, so in 1987, she graduated from college and got a job as a junior accountant. Now this is Bernardo. I'm sorry, so in 1987, Bernardo graduated from college. So he then dated a woman by the name of Jennifer Thompson, and she threatened to go to the police. After he raped two women and attempted another rape in July. So Bernardo and Homolka, they met in a hotel restaurant. He was 23 and she was 17. And she had came to Scarborough to attend a pet store conference because, again, Scarborough is where Paul grew up and that was his hometown. So we went over how they were instantly attracted. If you guys did not follow that story, watch that video first, because it tells about how they became instantly attracted and what went on during that time. So Homolka was aware of what Bernardo was doing, and there was allegations from one victim that Homolka was present while these attacks of the rapes were going on. In 1990 of May, the police composited a sketch to the public, and that came back with a massive number of tips. At the time, Bernardo again had quit his job, and in the last video, the last article is that he lost his job because he was smuggling cigarettes across the US-Canadian border. So the friends and previous girlfriends of Paul's saw the sketch and they contacted the police. In November, 2 detectives visited Bernardo and they took blood, saliva, and hair samples from him, but they wouldn't be tested for 2 years. So in the last video, we talked about how Paul was obsessed with Homolka's sister, and her name was Tammy, and how they went about lacing the sister's food with Valium, and she ended up dying. So that's like where I left off at, as far as the autopsy saying that she died from accident or from choking, but there was visible chemical burns on her face. So, okay, now we can pick up from here. Bernardo was caught stroking Tammy's hair as she laid in an open casket, and a 1993 exhumation revealed that the couple had also placed a photo of theirs in the casket. So then Bernardo and Homolka moved to Port Dalhousie, where they filmed themselves role-playing sexual encounters again. And yeah, this is where I discussed in the last video that they would dress up. She would dress up as her sister, like as a fantasy role play for Paul. Okay, so here is when it gets into what went on after this murder of her sister Tammy. On June 7th, 1991, Homolka invited a teenager. Oh my gosh, why did this page just go all the way up? I'm sorry, guys. Okay, they invited a teenager that she had befriended at work. So they called her Jane Doe during the trial to keep her name sacred. So they invited this friend to their new home. After she passed out from having a drink laced with Halcyon, Homolka told Bernardo that she had a surprise wedding gift for him, and the two filmed themselves as they raped her. The victim woke up the next day with nausea, but left without realizing that she had been raped. On June 15th, Bernardo took a detour to Burlington to steal license plates to use in his smuggling business when he had met 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey, who had been locked outside her home in punishment for missing her curfew. After Mahaffey asked him for a cigarette, Bernardo led her to his car, where he blindfolded her, forced her inside, and drove her to Port Dalhousie, telling Homolka that they had a playmate. The two filmed themselves as they raped their new victim, and after Mahaffey's blindfold fell off, they murdered her. They kept the body in the basement while they dined with the Homolka family upstairs, and later dismembered it and threw the remains in Lake Gibson. The remains were found on June 29th, the same day that Bernardo and Homolka were married. In August, Jane was invited over again, mirroring what had happened when Tammy died. Jane also stopped breathing while she was raped, but she was revived successfully. Homolka, who had called 911, phoned back to say that the crisis had been solved and the ambulance en route was recalled without further inquiry. So, and then April 16th of 1992, Bernardo and Homolka abducted 15-year-old Kristen French as she exited the Holy Cross Catholic Secondary School. And there were witnesses around her captivity, French was never blindfolded and was forced to ingest large amounts of alcohol, watch the recording of Mahaffey's rape, and act in a submissive manner to Bernardo. Though she became confrontational by the end, once again the couple left the body in their home while they dined with the Homolkas. They later washed it and cut its hair before they threw it on the Burlington dumpster. Wow. Bernardo was interviewed by 2 police officers a month after French's murder, but they considered him an unlikely suspect even after he admitted to have been interviewed previously in connection to the Scarborough rapes. Soon after, Bernardo and Homolka solicited to change their legal name to Teal, the surname of a serial killer in the 1988 film Criminal Law. So now we're going to talk about the arrests and incarcerations, but let me drink some. Okay. So on December 27th, Bernardo savagely beat Homolka with a flashlight, leaving her with bruises on her limbs and 2 black eyes. Nonetheless, she returned to work on January 4th, 1993 and tried to pass her injuries as the result of a traffic accident. Her co-workers did not believe her and alerted her parents, who insisted on taking her to a hospital. Once there, Homolka claimed to be a battered spouse and filed charges against Bernardo, who was briefly arrested. By coincidence, the samples that Bernardo had given 2 years earlier were tested right around this time, positively identifying him as the Scarborough Rapist. Homolka moved to Brampton with her aunt and uncle and told them that Bernardo was both the Scarborough Rapist and the killer of Mahaffey and French. In February, she sought full immunity from prosecution in exchange for cooperation, but this was denied. Instead, Homolka was given a week to accept a 12 years prison term for manslaughter or face charges for 3 murders, one of them Tammy Homolka's, whose case had just been reopened, as well as other crimes. Homolka took the deal and testified against Bernardo in his trial, which took place in 1995. On September 1st, Bernardo was sentenced to life in prison without parole for at least 25 years. He is segregated from other inmates because of threats made to him, and in one occasion in 1999, a group of 5 prisoners tried to storm the segregated area and had to be dispersed by riot police. Because of his official his official status as a dangerous offender, it is considered unlikely that he will ever be granted parole. Homolka's plea deal was severely criticized in Canadian society, especially after the tapes depicting the couple's rapes were shown at Bernardo's trial. Some prosecutors declared that they had known what was in the tapes. They would never have proposed it. Bernardo's first lawyer purposely hid most of the tapes for 17 months and was later charged with obstruction of justice, but he was acquitted. Homolka was released from prison in 2005, having been denied the possibility of parole. She moved to the French Caribbean island of Guadeloupe in an attempt to avoid media scrutiny in 2007, where she married Thierry Bordeaux and had 3 children. The family later returned to Canada and settled in Montreal. So Bernardo targeted petite white women between 14 and 22 years of age, from the height of 5'11" to 5'3", and from 95 to 135 pounds. That again he saw walking alone at night. He would follow exhibited by the offender during his attacks, and his intent is to punish and degrade the victims as he is angry with all women. His anger is unmistakable when observing the excessive physical force he used against the victims. The escalation in violence is observable in this series of attacks, as he was using far more physical force against the victims than was necessary to control them. Based upon our research and experience, that if confronted, a victim who vigorously resisted his attack, the offender was the type who would likely become so enraged he could lose control and thereby become capable of unintentionally murdering the victim. The sadist achieves gratification by the victim's response to his attempts to dominate and control her, either physical or psychologically, be posing a question that would make the victim beg for her life. The first rape in St. Catherine's clearly demonstrated the same modus operandi used by the Scarborough rapist as described elsewhere in this document. This pattern is predictable in the case of the sexual sadist. Abduction of a victim virtually guarantees that murder will result. If the sexual sadist has held a victim, he feels in his own mind that he can't possibly let them go. As his fantasy escalates, he needs more control and gains that control through abduction and forcible confinement of his victims. The ultimate fantasy of a sexual sadist is to totally possess his victims, both physically and psychologically. He seeks to achieve control over their life and ultimately over their death as well. Rapists identified as sexual sadists are statistically less than 2% of all of these types of offenders. There is a high probability that the Scarborough rapist and the sexual sadistic murderer of Mahappy and French is the same offender. So, that is the story of this couple. And again, if you guys have not watched the first video, be sure to check that out because I go into detail about how Paul killed Homolka's sister and how she allowed him to and gave him access, gave him to her as a Christmas gift. So she says crazy stuff. So if you guys want me to cover another story, leave it in the comments and I will be sure to look into it. Please guys, give me some ideas to keep my mind going and free of stress. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of the comments and the likes and the